I was called the shadow of my own family. I always thought my sister hated me. It was as if in every gesture of hers, I saw a reflection of the disdain I carried in my heart. To me, she was the sun, and I, the moon, lurking in the darkness, trying to find my place in a world where her light overshadowed everything. For years, I watched her from a distance. Her smile was like a light that illuminated everyone around, while I got lost in the shadows of my insecurities. I remember the smell of the coffee she made on Sunday mornings, while I sat in a corner, invisible, waiting for someone to notice my presence. It was always like that. Others adored her, and I was just the sister who was there, but wasn't. It hurt more than I could admit, but nothing prepared me for what would happen on a sunny afternoon. That was when I saw my sister talking animatedly with a group of friends. I was about to walk away when I heard a word that cut like a knife: "She's not like us." At that moment, I realized that my silence had a price. The disdain I felt wasn't just hers, but mine as well. I felt the ground disappear when I heard my name from her mouth, as if it were a curse. "She is very different," continued her friend. What I didn't realize is that, behind that facade of indifference, there was an internal battle I didn't know about. My sister was trapped between the love she felt for me and the expectations that surrounded her. But there's something they didn't know. In that moment of pain and revelation, something inside me awoke. I realized that the pain she felt wasn't because she hated me, but because she couldn't understand me. The weight of guilt and expectation was crushing her, and I had no idea what was happening. On the day everything changed, she came up to me. With tears in her eyes, she said, "I never hated you. I just didn't know how to help you." And it was at that moment that the truth emerged. I was the one who bore everything in silence. What seemed like disdain was, in fact, a desperate cry for connection. I learned that faith is not just about believing in something greater, but also about believing in each other. The love I sought was there, hidden under layers of misunderstandings and silences. God knows what's in each person's heart, but we also need to have the courage to show our own. I learned that silence can be the purest form of response, and that sometimes what seems like rejection is actually a quest for understanding. My sister's journey and mine intertwined in a way I could never have imagined. If this story touched you, remember that understanding can hide behind pain sometimes. Those we love the most are the ones who challenge us the most. So, if you've ever experienced something like this, you'll understand that love can be confusing, but it's always worth fighting for. From that day on, something changed. My relationship with my sister began to slowly transform. Every conversation became an opportunity to unveil layers that had previously been hidden. I remember one afternoon when we decided to prepare dinner together. The smell of garlic and onions frying mixed with the soft sound of music playing in the background. As we chopped the ingredients, we talked about everything and nothing, as if we were trying to make up for lost time. With each laugh, a bit more of the pain dissipated. But there were moments when the old shadow still hung over us. In some conversations, I felt that the past still haunted us. It was as if, even with the light of understanding, there were darknesses that didn't want to be illuminated. In one of those moments, tension arose when we talked about our experiences in church. For my sister, that space had always been a refuge, while for me, it had become a battlefield. "Do you remember that time when everyone was staring at me during the service?" I asked, trying to understand what was going through her mind. That feeling of being a fish out of water, like I didn't belong anywhere. She hesitated, her gaze distant. "I just wanted you to feel at home. I never realized you were so lost." Her words cut deep. I wasn't just lost, I was invisible. That night, as I prepared for bed, the memory of her look haunted me. What if I had found the courage to open up earlier? Could we have avoided years of loneliness and misunderstanding? The silence surrounding us was an echo of everything we never said. But there was a small flame of hope starting to glow between us as the weeks passed. We decided it was time to face our ghosts. On a rainy afternoon, we sat on the couch, surrounded by pillows and blankets, as if seeking comfort in the little things. "Let's talk about church," I suggested, and my heart started to race. What I feared, in truth, was her reaction. "Why did you never tell me how you felt?" Her question caught me by surprise. I didn't know whether to respond with the truth or a more palatable version. "I was afraid of losing you," I confessed, "afraid that you would see me as a burden." She looked at me with an expression that mixed compassion and pain. "I saw you as the perfect sister, the one everyone loved. I never realized you felt that way." The conversation flowed like a river, finding its way among stones. We revealed our wounds, our fears, and what was once a chasm between us now became a bridge. With each revelation, the weight on our hearts diminished, but it wasn't easy. There were days when the shadow of the past still loomed over us. One Sunday, we decided to go to church together, an act I already considered a challenge. The smell of incense and the sound of hymns awakened memories I wished to forget. As we walked towards the altar, I saw looks of surprise and speculation. "Look who's here," whispered a familiar voice. The disdain I feared materialized in words. And I felt once again at the mercy of judgment, but this time, something inside me refused to shrink. I took my sister's hand and, in a gesture of courage, entered the room with my head held high. "We are together," I murmured, and that was enough to give me strength. In that moment, I realized that the life I so admired was not only hers. It was ours. The connection we built was beginning to illuminate even the darkest corners of our souls. After the service, we talked about what had happened. "Did you see how they looked at us?" she said, nervously laughing. "Yes, like we were aliens." The laughter between us was not just a response to discomfort, it was a way to reaffirm that we were there, not just as sisters, but as allies. What had once been a solitary battle now became a shared struggle. But there was still much to be revealed. What I didn't know was that my sister's journey of self-discovery was just beginning. In subsequent conversations, she began to open her heart about her own struggles, her insecurities, and the pressures she always felt to be perfect. "I never knew how to be what everyone expected," she confessed one day with tears in her eyes. "And it made me feel like I wasn't enough." Those words resonated with me, as if the echo of our pains finally found a place to rest. The empathy that blossomed between us was not just a relief, but a glimpse of healing. With each conversation, each shared tear, we felt the weight of the past beginning to dissipate. I realized that, although the pain in us had kept us separated for so long, now became the foundation of a new understanding. The wounds that were once a source of shame now transformed into bridges that connected us more deeply. As we opened up to each other, something unprecedented began to happen. I was no longer just the invisible sister, and she was no longer the perfect sister. We were two souls in search of mutual understanding, two women fighting against the expectations that society imposed. And this made us stronger, with each revelation, with each confession. The light that once seemed so distant came closer. I remember one night when we decided to watch a movie that depicted the complexity of family relationships. As the story unfolded, the similarities to our lives became evident. I could feel the tension growing between us, but at the same time, a comforting warmth. Looking at my sister, I saw that she was also on the verge of tears. It was as if in that moment, the movie was showing us that pain was part of the journey, but it didn't have to be the end of the story. "Have you ever felt so lost that you didn't know how to come back?" I asked, breaking the silence that had settled. She nodded, her eyes shining with the moisture of emotions. "Every day, sometimes. The pressure is so intense that I wish I could disappear." Her words resonated with me, and I realized that we were more alike than I had imagined. Her struggle to fit in mirrored my quest for acceptance. From that moment on, we decided to support each other more actively. We created a space where we could share our fears without the fear of being judged. Each conversation became a sacred ritual, a moment where vulnerability was not seen as weakness, but as strength. We began meeting once a week, choosing a topic to discuss, something that bothered us or that we needed to understand better. These nights became our therapy sessions, and with each meeting, the connection between us deepened. One time, we decided to talk about the expectations the church had placed on us. For me, that place was an arena of judgments, but for my sister, it was a safe haven. "I always thought you believed I was perfect, but the truth is I felt suffocated by that image," she said, and I could hear the anguish in her voice. That confession made me realize that even in a space meant to promote love, there was unbearable pressure. "Perfection is a trap," I responded, and I let myself get caught in it. Our conversations began to expand beyond what we had imagined. We talked about what faith meant to us, about how the church often became a place of pain instead of healing. "I wanted you to know that even when you saw me as perfect, I just struggled with my faith," my sister confessed. "It was as if I was trying to please everyone. But deep down, I didn't know how to be myself." I understood her now. and the pain that had once separated us transformed into a bond of unity. These reflections led us to explore new forms of spirituality. We started visiting different communities, looking for a space where we could be authentic, where vulnerability was not seen as weakness, but as a pathway to true connection. It was as if we were searching for a home not made of walls, but of understanding and acceptance. Over time, we found a small community that welcomed everyone, regardless of their struggles. The first day we entered that space was magical. People greeted us with genuine smiles, and the atmosphere was filled with a sense of belonging. It was there that I finally managed to feel what I had always sought, an environment where the light was not just from a sun, but from many souls shining together. During one of the meetings, I had the courage to share our story. The sensation of exposing my vulnerability to strangers was terrifying, but at the same time, liberating. I knew I wasn't alone. When I finished, I saw tears in the eyes of some people in the room. That connection, that empathy, was something I had longed for so much. My sister beside me held my hand, and I realized that together, we were building a new legacy. After that experience, we decided that we wanted to do more. We started organizing gatherings in the community, where people could share their stories, their struggles, and their victories. The idea was to create a safe space where pain could be heard without judgment, where each person's experiences could be validated. Our intention was to create a space where people could feel seen and heard, just as we had always wished. I remember the first meeting we organized. My heart was racing, and a mix of anxiety and hope coursed through my body. What had started as a timid idea was now turning into something tangible. The room was decorated with soft lights and comfortable cushions, creating a welcoming atmosphere. When the first participants arrived, I looked at my sister and saw that she felt the same anticipation. It was a moment of transformation, not just for us, but for all who were willing to open up. The stories began to flow. Each testimony was like a piece of a puzzle being assembled before us. There was pain, of course, but there was also empathy and understanding. A woman shared how she had felt isolated in her own family. Another spoke about the struggle against depression in an environment that preached faith as the answer to everything. Vulnerability was in the air, and I noticed that with each confession, the connection between all of us grew stronger. It was in this environment that I began to understand that pain, no matter how intense, could become a catalyst for change. When someone opened up, it was as if a light was turned on, illuminating the dark corners of the room and the hearts of everyone present. That day, I realized that we were all shadows searching for light, but together we could create a constellation of support and love. Over time, the meetings became a safe space for many, and our community began to grow. People from different backgrounds and experiences came together, and each meeting revealed new stories that needed to be told. We began to realize that what united us was not just the pain but the relentless pursuit of understanding and genuine connection. It was in this context that a new idea emerged. We decided to create a story wall, where people could write about their experiences and leave messages of hope and support. It was a way to eternalize each person's struggles and victories, a reminder that we were not alone on this journey. When the wall was inaugurated, I saw tears in many eyes. It was as if each written word was a step toward healing. Amidst all of this, my relationship with my sister continued to strengthen. Conversations that were once filled with hesitation now flowed naturally in one of these moments. I looked into her eyes and realized there was a new trust between us. "You know," I said, "we are changing not just our story, but the story of so many other people as well." She smiled, and the light in her eyes reflected everything we had built together. But as in any journey, we faced challenges. On some occasions, the weight of the past still haunted us. I remember one time when an old friend of my sister showed up at one of the meetings. The tension was palpable. She was someone who had been part of her life before we started our healing journey. I felt the discomfort in the air, but at the same time, I realized it was an opportunity to confront what was still hidden. As soon as the friends started talking, the room fell silent. She asked a few questions about what we were doing and, in an unexpected moment, shot a criticism. "Do you really believe you can change anything? Pain is part of life." The impact of her words was like a punch to the gut. What I didn't expect was for my sister to stand up and, with impressive calm, say, "Pain doesn't define who we are, but it can unite us in the search for understanding." Her strength surprised me. Those words echoed in the hearts of everyone in the room. The silence turned into murmurs of approval. The friend, visibly impacted, didn't know how to respond. At that moment, I realized that we were creating something bigger than ourselves. We were challenging the narratives that kept us silent and making room for new possibilities. The meetings continued to expand, and the community began to become a beacon of hope. With each story shared, with each tear shed and each laughter exchanged, we were healing not only our own wounds but those of many who felt alone. The idea that vulnerability could be a powerful force united us. One night, at the end of a meeting, a young woman approached us with her eyes shining. "I never thought I could feel this way," she said, her voice trembling. "You have shown me that I am not alone. I also can be vulnerable." The joy I felt at that moment was indescribable. It was an echo of what I had wished to hear years ago. The connection was there, alive and pulsating, with the passage of time. The community we built became a true refuge. The space where there once was pain and insecurity now pulsed with love and acceptance. I remember one night when an older woman with white hair and tired eyes decided to share her story. She spoke about years of rejection and loneliness, about how the church that should have been a home had instead left her vulnerable and abandoned. Her words reverberated in the room, and I realized that, even with the passage of time, the pain didn't disappear but transformed into a desperate quest for understanding. When she finished, silence hung in the air. But it wasn't a silence of discomfort. It was a silence filled with empathy and connection. I was overcome with a wave of gratitude as I realized that, there, each shared tear became a link that united our stories. The woman looked at us and said, "You made me feel seen again." At that moment, I realized that true healing wasn't just in telling our own pains but in being the support someone needed to open up. From that day forward, we began to explore new ways to connect. We created small support groups where people could gather in smaller circles and share their stories more intimately. Those gatherings became a sacred space where vulnerability was the norm and the fear of being judged disappeared. The human warmth that emanated from each of us was palpable, and I knew we were walking together towards something greater. At one of these meetings, a young woman named Anna, with a shy smile, raised her hand and asked to share. She spoke about the pressure she felt to be perfect, about how the quest for approval had distanced her from her own true self. True essence. "I feel like I need to be everything for everyone, but in the end, I can barely be myself," she said, tears streaming down her face. The room was silent, but her pain echoed in our hearts. I knew that many of us had faced this same struggle, and the connection between us grew even stronger. After her speech, a wave of support spread throughout the room. Each of us, in our own way, began to share similar experiences. It was as if the walls that separated us were falling one by one. I looked at my sister and saw that she was also moved. It was a moment where pain turned into strength, and vulnerability into courage. And so, in that illuminated room, each one's light shone more intensely. That same month, we decided it was time to take our experiences beyond those walls. Organizing a community event became an idea that united us. We wanted to share our stories with others, to show that pain can be a catalyst for change. We chose a local park, an outdoor space where we could bring the community together, and started planning. The following weeks were filled with lively meetings and discussions. Each of us contributed ideas, and the excitement grew with each meeting. The day of the event arrived, and seeing families, friends, and even strangers coming together, I felt a mix of nervousness and joy. The park was buzzing with life, and the atmosphere was one of celebration. We set up a small stage where anyone could share their story and created conversation areas where people could connect in a more intimate way. When the event began, the energy was contagious. People gathered around the stage, and I saw both familiar and unfamiliar faces. Every story shared was met with applause and smiles. The pain and vulnerability became the guiding thread that united us, and the message that we were not alone echoed in every word. I remember looking at my sister and seeing that her tears were streaming down her face. But they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of liberation. Throughout the day, several people took the stage to share their struggles and victories. A mother spoke about the fight against depression, and another woman described how she finally found the courage to leave a toxic relationship. Each story was a testament to resilience, and as the sun set, the atmosphere became even more magical. The connection we were creating transcended any barrier that had previously separated us. But, as in every journey, not everything was easy. An hour after the start, a familiar voice emerged from the crowd. It was my sister's friend who had previously criticized our work. I felt a chill in my stomach as I saw her approaching the stage, and an awkward silence fell over the place. She seemed hesitant, but at the same time determined. When she started speaking, I could see the internal struggle she was facing. "I came here today because I realized that what you are doing is important," she began, her words laden with sincerity. "I was wrong to think that pain couldn't be a path to healing. I didn't understand your struggle, and therefore, I didn't know how to support you." Her voice trembled, but there was a sincerity in her words that began to melt the tension in the air. I could feel the empathy spreading among the people, as if her vulnerability was touching a deep point in each of us. "I just wanted you to know that even when I criticized, I was dealing with my own insecurities. What I saw in you was a reflection of what I couldn't be, and for that, I distanced myself." The silence transformed in murmurs of understanding. Her transformation wasn't just about accepting what was said, it was an opportunity for all of us. With every word, I felt a new connection forming in the room. It was as if the pain itself had become a link, uniting all of us in a web of shared experiences. My sister's friend continued, "I wish I had the courage you all have, to expose yourself and to support each other. And that's why I'm here today, to learn." The atmosphere changed. What was once a moment of tension was now transforming into a space of acceptance. People started to applaud, and, as the friends stepped off the stage, a wave of warmth and understanding enveloped the room. I looked at my sister, and her eyes reflected a mixture of surprise and joy. It was a moment that transcended anything we had experienced until then. That very day, we decided that we wanted to create a space where such conversations could happen continuously. It was evident that there was a deep desire for connection among everyone present. So, we began to think about regular meetings, not just as an event, but as a movement that could grow and spread. The following weeks were dedicated to planning what we called circles of empathy. We gathered again, but now with renewed focus. We wanted everyone to feel free to share their stories, without fear of judgment. The goal was to create a space where vulnerability was celebrated, and pain validated. I remember a meeting where a woman introduced herself. She had a tired look, but at the same time, a determination that could light up the room. "My name is Anna," she began, "and I come here today because, for a long time, I believed I had to be perfect. The pressure to meet others' expectations made me forget who I really am." Her words resonated with me, and I knew that many of us had felt that pressure before. The conversation flowed naturally, and Anna shared how her struggle wasn't just internal, but also a battle against what society expects of us. "Sometimes I feel like I'm on a stage, and everyone is waiting for me to perform. But in reality, I just want to be myself." Her outpouring touched everyone, and I saw tears in the eyes of some participants. It was a moment of pure connection. As time went on, the circles of empathy began to expand. People from different backgrounds and stories gathered, and each meeting brought new voices and experiences. I remember one evening when a man, who until then had remained silent, finally decided to share. I always thought vulnerability was a weakness, but in listening to so many stories, I realized it's what makes us human. It's what connects us. Those words echoed through the room. It was as if with each new testimony, the walls that isolated us were being torn down one by one. The space transformed into a home, a place where each person could be authentic, without masks. Over time, the shared stories became a rich and colorful tapestry, woven with each individual's experiences. At each meeting, something wonderful happened. People began to connect beyond the circles. New friendships emerged, and I saw faces that were once strangers become familiar. The support extended beyond the meetings, and messages of encouragement started to circulate among us, creating a network of love and understanding. Once, we decided to organize a weekend retreat, a space where we could disconnect from the outside world and focus on ourselves. The chosen location was a small chalet surrounded by trees and a quiet lake. The goal was to create a safe environment where we could delve into our stories and heal wounds that still hurt. During the retreat, the conversations intensified. At one point, we were sitting around a campfire, sharing laughter on stories, A woman began to talk about her childhood and how, for years, she carried the guilt of not meeting her family's expectations. I always felt like a disappointment, she said, but now I realize that I am not responsible for their expectations. With every word, the fire seemed to shine brighter. With every word, the fire seemed to shine brighter, as if the light was responding to the freedom that those confessions provided. The feeling of being surrounded by people who understood the complexities of pain and struggle was indescribable. I remember looking at the faces around me and seeing tears rolling down, but they were not tears of sadness. They were tears of liberation, of acceptance. It was as if, at that moment, the pain each of us carried transformed into an invisible bond that united us deeply. When the woman finished her story, a contemplative silence took over the group. Then, a young woman named Clara, who had been very shy in previous gatherings, raised her hand. "Can I speak?" Her voice trembled, but there was determination in her eyes. I always felt like a fraud, as if I was living a life that wasn't mine. I always needed to please everyone, and it left me so exhausted. She took a deep breath, and I realized she was about to share something very personal. Recently, I had to confront the truth about who I am and what I really want. And, in the midst of it all, I realized that my faith shouldn't be a burden, but a source of light. Her words resonated within me. I knew exactly what it felt like to feel trapped between external expectations and the search for authenticity. The group began to murmur in agreement. An older woman, who was next to me, sighed, said, "This is so true. Faith should not be a prison, but a space of freedom." The conversation flowed, each of us sharing our own experiences about how religion and spirituality intertwined with our lives, often in complicated ways. That night, voices intertwined in a chorus of stories about the struggles of finding oneself in a world that often does not accept vulnerability. The warmth of the campfire blended with the rising energy, and I realized that we were indeed creating a new space of belonging. It was a place where we could be authentic, where vulnerability was not seen as weakness, but as a strength that united us. As the hours passed, we decided to take a break and serve ourselves a snack that we had prepared together. While we ate, the conversations continued, but now with laughter and a comfort that previously seemed unattainable. One of the women, named Lucia, began to tell a funny story about one of the services she had attended. Her exaggerated descriptions and facial expressions provoked sincere laughter, and I realized that even amidst the pain, there was room for joy. The atmosphere was light, but we did not overlook the depth of what we were experiencing. With each laugh, a layer of pain seemed to dissipate, and the connection between us grew stronger. Some of us began making plans to meet again, not just to discuss our pains, but also to celebrate our victories, no matter how small. It was a moment of transformation, where pain became a catalyst for unity. The next morning, we decided to conduct an outdoor meditation, surrounded by nature. The sun was just starting to rise, and the fresh air brought a sense of renewal. Sitting in a circle, we began to breathe deeply, allowing tranquility to envelop us. As we meditated, I felt the group's energy pulsating around me. It was as if we had created a bubble of protection, a sacred space where everyone could connect with their inner self without fear of judgment. After the meditation, one of the participants, named Beatrice, suggested that we share a word or phrase that represented what we were feeling at that moment. "I'll start," she said. "My word is freedom." The others began to follow, and each word brought a new perspective: hope, understanding, healing, strength. Each expression was a reflection of what we were experiencing together and what each one was learning about herself. When my turn came, I hesitated. "My word is connection," I said. And as I spoke, I felt the truth of it echo in my heart. That was what we were all seeking, a genuine connection, a way to understand and support each other. At that moment, I realized that we were weaving a network of love and solidarity that could extend far beyond the walls of that community. The retreat was drawing to a close, and each of us felt the transformation happening in our hearts. On the last night, we decided to build a fire once again. As the fire crackled, we began to share what we had learned and how each of us felt upon leaving that space. It was a moment of deep reflection, where we could see how much we had grown together. When my turn came, I took a deep breath. I feel that, throughout this retreat, I not only shared my pains and insecurities, but I also found the courage to be truthful. Each of you helped me see that my story is not a weakness, but a part important of who I am. I realize now that when we open our hearts, we create a space where pain transforms into strength and vulnerability becomes an act of courage. As I spoke, I couldn't help the tears that streamed down my face. I thanked each one of you, not just for listening to me, but for accepting me as I am. And as I looked around, I saw faces that reflected not only empathy but also a deep understanding of what it means to struggle against expectations and pain. That bonfire, which was once just a point of light in the night, now seemed like a vibrant metaphor for our souls, shining brightly, warming, and illuminating. As soon as I finished, a wave of applause and encouragement spread through the circle. It was as if every inch of that space was pulsating with the energy of our intertwined stories. A woman named Fernanda, who had been quiet throughout the entire retreat, stood up. "I would like to thank all of you, not just for welcoming me, but for showing me that I am not alone on this journey." Her voice was soft but laden with emotion. "I believe that, together, we are creating a new path, one where pain is recognized and healing is possible." The atmosphere was filled with love and understanding. Fernanda's words resonated with me, as if each one of us was connected by an invisible thread of shared experiences. That night, the bonfire became a symbol of our union, illuminating not just our faces but also our souls. As the hours progressed, we began to discuss what we would do next. Our conversations were full of ideas about how to continue this movement of empathy and support. I remember a young woman named Sophia who suggested that we create a blog or a social media page where we could share our stories and experiences. This could help other people who are struggling in silence, she said, and I saw the flame of inspiration light up in every woman's eyes. The idea of using technology to reach more people seemed not only innovative but necessary. The world out there often marginalizes the voices that are struggling, and we were determined to change that. With each word, the excitement grew, and the energy in the room turned into a true wave of hope. The next morning, still riding the energy of the retreat, we decided to have a meeting to plan how to put this idea into practice. We returned to the city with a new determination, our hearts beating with the certainty that together, we could create something meaningful. Throughout the trip back, we talked about the topics we could cover, the stories we wanted to share, and how we could use our experiences to empower others. In the following days, we met frequently, whether in cafes, parks, or even in each other's homes. Each meeting was an opportunity to unveil more layers of our stories and build a safe space where everyone could feel free to express themselves. The blog quickly took shape, and I realized that by writing, we were not only sharing our experiences but also transforming our pain into power. One of the first posts I wrote was about the importance of recognizing vulnerability as a strength. I described how, for so long, I had felt like a shadow, invisible and worthless. By exposing these emotions, I realized that I was giving voice to something that many other people also felt. The response was overwhelming. We received messages of support from people who identified with our stories, which motivated us even more to continue. As the blog grew, our community also expanded. We started getting invitations to participate in community events and even to speak at support groups. I remember one time when we were invited to participate from a conference on mental health. The idea of speaking in public made me nervous but also excited. It was an opportunity to share our message of hope and empathy with a larger audience. On the day of the conference, the auditorium was packed. The nervousness was palpable, but as we looked at each other, we found strength in the connection we had built. When it was our turn to speak, we climbed onto the stage, and each of us had the chance to share a piece of our journey. When I finished, the room was silent, and then, like a wave, the applause began. That validation was all I needed to understand that vulnerability really does create bonds. From that moment on, we began to be recognized as important voices in the fight for acceptance and understanding. The connection we created amongst ourselves expanded, and the pain that was once a barrier now transformed into a vehicle of empowerment. Every story shared not only connected us but also inspired other women to open up and join our mission. In the following months, the community grew, and with it, the need for a physical space where we could gather. So, we decided it was time to take a step forward and seek a permanent place where we could welcome all the voices that wished to be heard. The idea of creating a center for empathy began to take shape. I remember a meeting where we discussed what this space would represent. It will not just be a place to gather, but a home for those who feel lost, my sister said, and her words echoed in the room. We wanted a welcoming space where everyone could enter and feel that they belonged. A place where vulnerability was not only accepted but celebrated. We started researching available locations and seeking support from other organizations that could help us. The excitement was palpable, but there was also an underlying fear. Could we do it? Would the dream become a reality? With each step, uncertainty accompanied us, but the flame of hope we ignited together propelled us forward. One afternoon, while discussing possibilities, a woman named Mariana, who frequently attended our meetings, raised her hand. What if we did a fundraiser? Each person could contribute what they can. If each of us brings a little, we can make this happen. The idea was met with enthusiasm. It was a simple yet powerful plan. We started promoting the campaign on social media, and the community quickly responded. Donations began to arrive, and with each contribution, we felt the dream becoming tangible. The support we received wasn't just financial. It was a validation of what we were building. Messages of love and encouragement motivated us to continue. This is just the beginning, I wrote in an update, feeling the energy of transformation around me. We are creating a space where all voices are valued. After a few weeks, we managed to gather the necessary amount to rent a space. The day we first entered what would become the Empathy Center was magical. The walls were bare, but we could already imagine each corner filled with laughter, tears, and stories. Together, we started planning how to transform that place into a true home. We decided that each of us would contribute something special. Some brought photos representing their journeys, others brought items symbolizing their victories. The idea was that every detail would tell a story and that, upon entering, everyone could feel the energy of love and empathy that resided there. The walls began to come to life, and the space transformed into a reflection of what we had lived through. Soon, the center was ready for the grand opening. The event was planned with great care. Invitations were sent out, and the community was invited to join us. I remember how anxious I was while arranging the last touches. What had started as a shared dream was now about to come true. The anticipation in the air was palpable. On the day of the grand opening, the space was packed. Friends, family, and even people who had only heard about our journey gathered to celebrate. When I arrived, I saw familiar and unfamiliar faces, all there to support and be a part of this new story. Emotion overwhelmed me, and when I looked at my sister, I realized we were experiencing a moment we would never forget. With a microphone in hand, I looked at the crowd. "The space is not just ours, it is yours," I began, my voice trembling. "It is a place where every story is valid, where every tear is a step towards healing. Here, we support each other, understand each other, and above all, accept each other." Applauded by a sea of hands, I felt that every word was being felt. Conversations began to flow, and every corner of the center was full of life. People shared laughs, memories, and hopes. We created a mural where everyone could leave messages of support, and it didn't take long for it to be filled with "Before you go, do two things now." Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to receive upcoming messages. And share this video with someone who needs to hear this today. To continue, watch the next video. It is already in the cards and also in the description.